Casey Dish. All right, I think we can get slowly started, and I'm sure some more folks will join us as we go. I'm recording this as well, so folks will be able to listen later. Thanks everyone for joining so far. My name is Alicia. I am the program manager with Google Developer Relations, and I'm very excited to host Xavi today, who's gonna give us a talk on conversational AI and Dialogflow CX console. Excited to learn more about it. And I'll hand over to you, Xavi. Feel free to present your screen. And by the end of the session, we agreed there's going to be time for a little bit of a Q&A. So if you have any questions, make a note, and Xavi will be able to respond afterwards.
Thank you very much. Let me present my screen. Let me know.
Yeah, I already see it.
Perfect. So yeah, thank you for inviting me to this session. Today I prepared one presentation, and then I would love to show you like the Dialogflow CX console, and at least try to understand the basics of Dialogflow CX. Another thing that I think it is also important to know in this session is what is conversational AI, because I think it is important to know what is this before starting developing stuff, on on Dialogflow CX in this case. Okay, so yeah, as Alicia say, I'm Xavier. I'm from Spain. You can follow me on Twitter, GitHub, YouTube or Twitch at Xavidop. I am very active there. And here in Spain, I am the organizer of the DevOps Days Madrid, also the Alexa Spanish community, the GDG, the Google Developer Group in Madrid. So yeah, a bunch of things, related to the community. But not only that, I am a conversational AI lover. So I always in my free time try to, share content about conversational AI, about Dialogflow CX, about Alexa, about Google Assistant, about chatbots in general. So yeah, I mean, in this Discord channel, you will see a lot of contributions that I'm doing in the Cloud Conversational AI channel. I'm working at VoiceFlow as an infrastructure team lead. In VoiceFlow, this is the conversational AI design tool, like the de facto one. Okay, is one of the most important in the conversational AI ecosystem. And yeah, I usually write a bunch of articles in English and also in Spanish. So you can find them at xavidop.me. And I have one podcast in Spanish about conversational AI called Voice Tech in English. In terms of recognition, what I have is the Azure Content Hero, GitHub Star, AWS Community Builder, and the Alexa Champion for all the things that I made related to Alexa and conversational AI. And I am the Google Developer Group leader, one of the co-organizers here in Madrid. So, stop talking about me, start talking about conversational AI. Today, I want to start to show you like one quick sample to understand why it is important for machines to that, I mean, those being able to understand us. Okay, so give me a quick sample. So, for example, if you are interacting, if you are not interacting with your Google Assistant, for example, and you are cooking a pizza and you want to set up a reminder, okay? So let's say that these are the actions that should take place. So the first one is gonna be that you have to take your phone, then unlock it, then of course you are, like with the pizza, so doesn't the mobile doesn't recognize your footprint. You have to put the code, open the app, set up the reminder. You have to take the fire extinguisher, and put out the flames because everything is on flames. This is a quick example, but in this case, if you just say, for example, okay, Google, set a 5 minutes timer, uh, this small thing has a lot of AI behind it and a lot of conversational as well. Okay, so as you can see, it is making our lives easier and easier and easier. So basically, I want to start with this, with this example. But what is conversational AI? What do you think that is conversational AI? Feel free to unmute yourself and drop your idea. But I did some. I give you some clues. Okay. If not, I can continue. No worries about it.
Before people unmute themselves, or also feel free, as always, to just chat in the voice channel. There's a chat. Xavi, I just wanted to make sure that you're still sharing the Discord and not the presentation.
Oh, really? Let me share my screen then.
Sure.
That. Can you see the presentation now?
It's still the
No.
screen. You may need to, if you're sharing the
Oops.
whole Chrome tab, you may just want to switch to sharing a specific tab.
Oh, I see what happened.
I did see it when we were testing it before the call, so it definitely works. It's just the wrong one.
Let me know if now it's okay.
Yes, this is it. Fantastic.
Thank you very
Thank
much.
you. Yeah. Thank you.
Oops. Okay, so conversational AI is basically the synthetic brain power that makes machines capable of understanding, processing, and responding to human language. Basically, is interacting with machines using a natural language. Okay, plus more things that we are gonna talk about in a bit. So, at least for me, when we talk about conversational AI, it should happen this one of these four processes. Okay, those are the ones involving conversational AI, and depends on the platform. Is different. Google Assistant and Dialogflow CX, for instance, like voice interaction versus a chat interaction. But at least some of them should happen to say that we are under a conversational AI platform, and also that we are interacting with some kind of AI. No. So the first one is the automatic speech recognition. That means that transforms voice into text. That happens when you are interacting with Google Assistant, like when you are talking with your Google Nest Mini. That transforms your voice into text. Then what it happened is the natural language understanding, the NLU, which is basically the text that we had from the previous process, which is automatic speech recognition. We recognize what is each part of the text that we have recognized. Like for instance, if we are requesting the weather from Valencia, the NLU will give us that we are requesting the weather, and not only the weather from like from whatever place. We are requesting the weather from Valencia, okay, in this case. Then the other one is the text-to-speech. The text-to-speech is the other way around as the automatic speech recognition, that is transform text into voice. So when you know, for instance, the weather from Valencia, like on your backend, you have, like make a call to your API, to the weather API, you got the information, and then once you get the information back, that transforms the text into voice, okay? Using the text-to-speech on Google Cloud, what we have is this speech-to-text and text-to-speech services, which are very powerful, and specifically the text-to-speech, like the voices that you can that they have, and the output, the audio is very, very natural. And now we can start talking about generative AI, how to generate prompts based on current conversation, which is, for instance, ChatGPT, as probably you will know about it. So basically, instead of giving like static prompts, is the doing or accessing to generative AI's models. You can use ChatGPT with the API or Bard, the one from Google. You can auto-generate your prompts based on some context of your conversation. So with that, you will enrich your conversation because every interaction is gonna be unique. This is basically like the processes that happen under a conversational AI interaction. The first one is like you as a user, you are gonna interact. If, for instance, we are interacting with the Google Assistant, it is gonna happen the automated speech recognition. Okay, then it's gonna we have the text. The text is gonna move towards the natural language understanding. So we are gonna comprehend what we want, or what the user wants, better said, and then what is happening is the dialogue management. Okay, so here is where Dialogflow CX and also Dialogflow ES became, the one of the most important tools in terms of the conversational AI, because under the dialogue management is basically a state machine handler. So what it will give you is the like you are here in the conversation, and then you are depending on the output of this current user, you will have to move, or you are gonna move to another place in the conversation. Okay, so this is the dialogue management. This is Dialogflow CX. And then you have the natural language generation. Okay, for the here you can use the generative AI, for example, or you can use the speech to text. Okay, so and everything here, like all the steps that you have seen here, there are AI inside of it, and like the cross of all of them, you have the machine learning and the deep neural networks. Okay, so there are more process involved in the conversational AI. So one, at least for me, one of the most important is the context. So when we are talking about conversational AI, that is also important to take into account the context of the user and the conversation itself. Why? Like, for instance, when you're interacting with your Google Assistant or with your Dialogflow CX project as a user, it could be useful to know how the current user is feeling. You can, for instance, in Dialogflow CX, you will have the sentiment analysis from 0 to 1. So depending on that variable, you can, in the dialogue management, imagine that Dialogflow CX is kind of as I say, a state machine with arrows, with flows that you are here and you are gonna move here, within a flow. So well, that is a spoiler. Dialogflow CX is based on flows, and in this kind of ways of designing conversations. But imagine that, I don't know, like the frustration of the user is super high. Then you can switch from, like from this flow to another, just to try to make the user happier, to have a better um, a better like overall satisfaction, from that interaction. Then the location is not the same that if you are interacting from your to if you are not interacting with your chatbot or with your Google Assistant, I don't know, like from outside your house, from your house, like from the car, from the whatever. It is important to know also the hour of the day of the week, language, dialect.
And the
Like
chat thinking, is he resize or that's just a fixed thing? Like, how's that working there?
Yeah, so it doesn't.
Sorry.
Yeah.
So yeah, and for instance, the tone, like if we are talking with Google Assistant, like with voice, and with audio, you can match that language, that dialect easier, and also the actual noise, and also the tone. Okay, so it is important to have those variables in your context when you are designing your conversational AI. And so yeah, in terms of Dialogflow CX, you can request some. I mean, you have the sentiment analysis, so that is very useful. And if you are interacting with Google Assistant, for example, that is when happen the multimodality. Okay, that is when you are interacting with the Nest, the Nest hub that has the screen. So there you will need to manage like the information that you are gonna tell the user and that you are gonna present the user in the screen. Okay, so you are like telling a bunch of information through the audio, like telling the user a bunch of information and then presenting a bunch of information in the screen, then you are gonna lose your user. And then if you add sensors, that is when we are starting like not only conversational AI, but also on the ambient computing field, which is broader, but is basically the interaction, but interaction with your environment, okay, with your ambient in general. So there are much factors that helps you, and that in the interaction with your users in every single turn. Okay, so for instance, to know something about the context is gonna be easier if you have sensors, for example. So how NLU works? Okay, for the NLU, basically, as we said, and as I explained, if you are gonna request the weather of Valencia, you can request the weather in multiple ways, like, and also depending on the regional, depending on the language, depending on like what a lot of factors, you can request the weather in multiple ways. So these ways are called utterances, but at the end you are requesting always the same. Okay, so that action that you are requesting is called intent. Then Valencia, in this case, you can have like multiple cities, countries, and that is a variable. So that is called slot. Okay, on Dialogflow CX, that is called entity types, and the intents are called intents. So on Dialogflow CX, you are gonna call these entity types and this intent, but like in other technologies, you can find it as a slot, you can find it as just entity. So it's the same. So let's see a full example. Like as I said, the chatbot example. what you are gonna have here is the user requesting information about your about the weather, in Valencia. So that is through, let's say, an app, SMS or iMessage, Telegram, WhatsApp, Facebook Messenger. Dialogflow CX has a Facebook Messenger and native integration, which is really easy to use. And then that text is gonna flow to the cloud. Okay, here in the cloud is when is gonna happen the NLU process, and it is gonna transform the text, the raw text that the user has input into JSON. Okay, that JSON is gonna go to your backend. That backend in Dialogflow CX is called a webhook, and it should be, I mean, the best practices are saying that you should use a Google Cloud function, okay? Because that makes a lot of sense to have this in a serverless architecture, okay? You don't know when you are gonna have your interactions, with your users, because that is something that you cannot control. So that's why it makes sense to have a serverless architecture here. So yeah, your backend, you should use the Google Cloud function, and then you have a Stackdriver to check the logs. And then once you know the weather, you are gonna send information back in JSON format. And the Dialogflow CX, for example, it will transform that into something that Facebook Messenger will understand. Okay, you can add custom payloads in Dialogflow CX for another integrations like WhatsApp, like Telegram. Let's say that you want to add buttons on Telegram, you can add them. Okay. For Google Assistant is kind of the same, but instead of having text, we have voice. Okay, so here in the cloud, what is going to happen is that we are going to have that automatic speech recognition, just transforming voice into text, then the NLU, the JSON, the text is transformed to JSON, the JSON back, and here is where we are going to have the text to speech. Okay, and then the Google Assistant is going to tell us the information in voice mode. How can I improve my conversational AI? So as I told you before, first is the contextual design, and then is the multimodal design. Okay, so for the contextual design, let's put an example. The word jam. The jam, as you know, depending on the context, it has different meanings. For instance, traffic jam, fruit jam, music jam. Okay, those are those have the jam word, but in different context, the meaning is completely different, as you can see. For contextual design and how to make these designs better, my suggestion is, for instance, I can send this Airtable grid after the event, but basically what you are gonna have is like your turns design as a cards. Okay, then what you are gonna do is establish the situation, like situation 1. Here the variables is the variables of your conversation of the current user are gonna be day is 1, time day is 1, slot is night. So here you can establish the response, because in the situation is where you are gonna set the context. Okay, then the second turn, exactly the same, third turn. So you can design your conversations based on the current situation. Okay, this is gonna be easier to transform into a Dialogflow CX project, because basically you are gonna have your conditionals to put on your flows on Dialogflow CX. But we will see this in a bit when we explore the Dialogflow CX console. This is one way of doing this. Another way could be just writing scripts, for instance, using Google Sheets or just Google Docs. I don't recommend that. I think that is a little bit not, it's not the best way, because you probably could not represent their like all the situations quite easy. And the other way, instead of using cards, could be use voice flow. Okay, so voice flow is a prototype tool that you can create conversations, but just drag and drop blocks and link one block with another one. Okay, and there you can test it, and it works, and it's quite easy. You can also share voice flow, like your designs, with your customers, for example. You can check how, when you are setting this prototype, how your users are interacting with your bot. So for instance, you can see missing intents, missing utterances, missing slots, missing entity types that you didn't put on your design, and also the happy path, like if the happy path is well designed. Like the happy path is when from a starting point is the flow that will go until the thing that you wanna achieve with your chatbot. For instance, book a flight, or make a reservation. So that is something quite easy. And that is the happy path. So you can see how people are interacting with your bots and improve from there. Okay. Voice flow is free, so you can go to voiceflow.com, sign up, and start doing this. In the enterprise plan, you can import your NLU from Dialogflow CX and export to Dialogflow CX, so that is even easier to use. So for instance, let's say that you have an NLU with 1,000 of intents, with 1,000 of utterances, and same for the entity types. You can just download it and put it there. Okay. Conversational design tips in terms of contextual design. In my opinion, for conversational AI, when you are designing things in Dialogflow CX, what I would suggest is, like, you have to design by thinking that every interaction should not be the same. Every interaction should be unique. Like, for example, you can use generative AI for that using ChatGPT or Bard. The wow effect should be, on every single interaction. So that means that whenever you open your chatbot, your, like your bot, your voice bot, whatever, it should be like unique. Checking multiple variables that can affect the conversation. For instance, as I said, like the location, the first time interaction. Are you interacting with me for the first time? So then you have to, like, go to this different flow. The hour of the day. Are you interacting with me, and are you on, I don't know, on middle of the day? So let's do it quicker. Instead of going very slow with a bunch of steps, or with requesting a bunch of information, let's do it quicker, as quick as possible. Talk with them, not at them. That is why the conversation is super important, because what you have to try as a CX developer is that try to make the user feel that she or he is interacting with a human, not with a machine. Okay. Be personal, individualize your entire interaction. Same with everything related to the contextual design, with the sentiment analysis that Dialogflow CX has. And be adaptable. Let users speaks in their own words. Okay. So for instance, I don't know, like, if you are interacting with this kind of, like English, like, I don't know, English from Wales, or English from Scotland, English from South London, let's try to use words that for the user can feel that interaction is more natural. And then that was contextual design. Then we have multimodal design. As I said, those are when we are talking about Google Assistant and we are introducing screens. So first, what you have to use is design the front end. Okay, here, as I told you, we have two front ends. First is the voice user interface, as talking with voice, and then the graphic user interface, which is the screen of the device. Okay, so for that you will need to the voice user interface is your NLU, like utterances, intents, that is your GUI, and then the GUI is the HTML buttons, so you will need to design both. Okay, and as I said, and as my tips for having a good conversational experience could be like having a good balance between audio and video. So that means that use the rule 80-20. So that is going to be that 80% talking, like using audio and voice, and 20% just using the screen. Okay, so you, as I said before, you will not lose your users. Then add value to your conversation. That means that whenever or if you want to introduce the screen, you will need to see that screen makes sense, like the content that you are putting in the screen makes sense. Like, let's not introduce like videos or images just because we have the screen. Okay, so if that does not make sense or does not fit too well, let's not do it. Okay, let's keep a better voice user interaction instead of doing the other way around. Okay, so for the voice user interface and the conversational user interface with Google Assistant and Dialogflow CX, what my suggestion is always the same, like design the conversation that you want with using VoiceFlow, using the cards that I told you. Then build, that means build the backend, build the Dialogflow CX agent or the Google Assistant action. Train your NLU always, and then evaluate. Okay, evaluate is just testing, beta testing, and running some experiments. On Dialogflow CX, you can execute some experiments as well. And this could be like, like the whole path. As I said, to be like conversational AI app in Google Assistant and also on Dialogflow CX. Okay, so first is from the starting point, like first designing the voice conversational AI, the voice and the conversational AI user interface. If we're talking, more broader, identifying the user persona, like everything. Then develop the backend, develop as well the CX agent, and then unify all together and test and check that everything is working fine. After that, we can just have, like doing some branding in chatbots. For example, you can specify the, like icons, like some fancy things that could help the interaction itself, and then you can just publish in CX. You can promote a version to an environment, and in Google Assistant you can publish your Google action, okay, to a production environment. As a conclusions, okay, so understand your final users, validate the designs before develop, create deliverables for your designs, and use tools that simplify your lives, like VoiceFlow, for example, and always test, and test, okay? And before, I mean, that is the slides that I prepared, but I want to show you Dialogflow CX and trying to, to understand all the things that I explained in this talk, okay, in this presentation. So if we go to here, when you open, well, first use Dialogflow CX, you will need a Google Cloud account, a GCP account with billing enabled. Okay, so then you will need to enable the Dialogflow API. So when you have that set up, then you can start creating Dialogflow CX agents. Okay, so on Dialogflow CX, what we create are agents. In those agents, we can is where we are gonna design our conversation. Okay, so as you can see here, this is like a sneak peek and a super simple example, but basically you have the first, let's start with the flow. So what you have are flows, and then what you have are pages, okay, within a flow. So these are things that helps you to structure and to design your conversation quite, like easier than ever. Why? Because for flows, for example, the flow is the top level component in terms of conversational design in Dialogflow CX. So let's say that you are designing an agent for your bank. Okay, let's say that, I don't know, like you have multiple user use cases that you want to cover. I don't know, like doing a transfer, like I don't know, like retrieving your balance. Okay, so those are different flows. So that is when the flows are very important, because you can create your flow, for example, called balance, the another one called transfer. So whenever you click on each one, what you are gonna have is your pages. The pages are the things that you are going to see here, and everything is independent. Of course, you can transition from one flow to another, and the other way around, like from another flow to the original one. But you can use this to have like a separation of concerns. Also, you can create flows to reuse conversational parts. Like, for instance, I don't know, to request, if you want to request some information in multiple places on your conversation, you can have a flow to request that information, and from your root flows, let's say, you can transition to that flow and then go back. Okay, so this is very important, and in terms of the design, makes your life super easier. Okay, I mentioned this, but in a flow you have pages. Okay, let's click on the page. So in the page you have different things. Let me explain you all the things. Oops, I always up here. Okay, so in a flow you have a start page. Okay, and then from that page, you are gonna move to another page or to another flow. Okay, so for instance, in the info page, the first thing that you can do is the fulfillment. That is to tell the user something. Okay, you can call your webhook, as I told you. You can call your backend, basically. You can specify parameters, and which parameters do you wanna specify. Okay, so a list of parameters, and what the agent will tell the user to request information. Then you have the routes. With the routes, you can transition to another flow or to another page. How? That depends. You can transition if an intent has been triggered. Okay, like for instance, the help. Okay, let's say that you are gonna request some help, and the user says, "I want help." If you have that utterance in an intent called help, you will transition, you have to specify this here, and then at the bottom, we'll specify the transition, okay, to a flow or to a page. That is one option. The other option is a condition, okay? You have you can transition when, for instance, all the parameters are filled, or when a specific parameter has a specific value. You can have this easy way, like this form, or you can specify like a customized expression. You can specify responses per channel. That is new. That was introduced on December, I think, or on January. So if you are like on Telegram or on WhatsApp or on an AVR, you can specify specific responses, okay, per channel. What else? And then the event handlers, okay? There are events that can happen. For instance, like when, imagine that we are calling our webhook and the webhook give us an error or give us a timeout. That is gonna be handled in the event handler with this built-in Dialogflow CX events, and also you can create your own events, okay? And here you can have route groups, which with the route groups is just a set of routes, okay? So you can specify a set of routes. The route groups, I think, can be shared between pages, so you can share these, you know, between pages. So this is basically Dialogflow CX, the console. Where can I check all the intents, the entity types, the webhooks, everything that I explained? This on the Manage tab. Here you will see intents, entity types, webhooks, and the route groups. As I told you, the route groups can be shared, okay? So the intent, for example, let's say that I have the order intent. So for the order intent, I have here my training phrases, okay? That is what I told you, that was utterances. Here in Dialogflow 6 are called training phrases. And then the parameter ID. So here you will see that, for instance, I want 3 Cokes or I want 2 pizzas training phrases. I'm specifying that the 3 or 2, it is a number with the parameter ID number. And the Cokes or pizza, it is an entity type order type with the parameter ID order type, okay? The parameter ID is the one that we are gonna use on our webhook, on our flows, on our pages to for instance, to transition to another place. And the entity type is the one that we're gonna define. So for instance, we're seeing Cokes, pizzas. So if we go to the entity types, here you will see the order type, entity type with all the synonyms, okay? I just put the singular and the plural, but for example, in the example here on Pokemon, I specify, for instance, for Pikachu, you can specify the Pokemon number in the Pokédex, and you can specify, for example, Pika as well, you know? So whenever you change your NLU, your intents and your entity types, my suggestion is to change your NLU, because here is where we have conversational AI, okay? Here is when we have AI, because we have to train our NLU so the users, when are typing or interacting with our agent, understand us, basically. You can create a different kind of entity types. For instance, in this case, regular expressions. So that is not gonna be AI, but you know, in some cases this is important. And you can have redacted exclusions and redacted entity types. Okay, so that means that in the log, if you are logging in everything to Stackdriver, that is on the agent settings, I will show you. Every interaction is gonna be on Google Cloud Login. So specify that, for instance, here these are sensitive data, that is not gonna, what you are gonna see is basically asterisks, okay? For the webhooks, again, you can specify, you know, the webhook, which is the configuration to access to your backend. And you can have a global webhook or a webhook per environment, okay? So it is a best practice to have a webhook per environment, of course. And you can specify the authentication, the certificate file, and all these things, okay? More important things here, as you know, here you have the environment, so you can go to the environment sections and create environment. Again, best practice, create different environments, so you can create versions, and then those versions you can add those to your environment, okay? Very important. And integrations. These are the built-in integrations that are available on Dialogflow CX. So basically, it's for telephony. You have Avaya, Box Implant, Audio Codes, and Twilio. You can have the CX Phone Gateway as well, but those are only for the projects that are under the global region. And then text-based, okay? Dialogflow Messenger, which is basically a snippet for your web, Facebook Messenger, and Line, okay? Though, I mean, they are gonna be introducing more and more integrations for sure. Important thing, how can I test my agent? So you can test your agent first. You should test your agent in the Dialogflow CX console. So here under the top right, you have the test your agent. So here you can start typing whatever you want and you can specify the parameters, okay? So with all the parameters saved, you can like test specific situations under your conversation, okay? Once you have finished, you can click here, save as a test case, okay? Or you can replay the test, okay? When you save this as a test case, under the manage, you will see all the test cases that you have saved, and you can reply it whenever you want, okay? Important thing is that under the CI/CD stuff, you can select your environment, for instance, in my case, the CI/CDM, and you can add all the tests that you have, okay? And then whenever a new version, you can specify that whenever a new version or new change has been done, then boom, enable continuous test, enable continuous deployment test. And that means that whenever a change is done on your in this environment, all the tests are gonna be executed. So you can make sure that the conversation is the same, you know, and you don't have surprises. And yeah, I think that's it overall. I have created one open source project called, well, it's a CLI called Dialogflow CX CLI. And you can, this is a tool that you can use to interact with your agents, okay, with your CX agents. If you go to the documentation, you can see all the things that you can do, but basically here, this is what you can do. Like for the agent, you can create, delete, export, restore, and update your agents. For the environments, you can create, delete, execute your CI/CD pipelines, the environment, update your environment, and so on. You know. Also, it has a speech to text and text to speech capabilities, so you can recognize text super easy. That is basically. Here I have one example. The text-to-speech here. It uses the Google Cloud text-to-speech API. You have to enable it. But once you have used it, basically from your CLI, from your terminal, using the CLI is as easy as this to synthesize voice. You will see this is example for hi, and same for the speech to text. So given an audio, it will give you the text detected, okay, and the confidence. And that's it. If you wanna follow me on social media, again at Shabidop, at YouTube, GitHub, YouTube, Twitter, and at shabidop.me. And for Dialogflow CX, I highly recommend. Let me go back here. I highly recommend the Cloud Conversational AI, the Discord channel. That is where I usually post my things related to the Dialogflow CX, also the GDs, the Dialogflow Slack channel. Okay, and there is a channel for Google Cloud Platform, so you can join there as well, and the Google developers basically, and also Women in Voice. Okay, the Women in Voice is they have local groups, but it's a global non-profit organization with local groups that they are organizing things related to conversational AI with voice, which is very important. And that's it. Do you have
Thank you
any question?
so much. Thanks so much. I just wanted to ask you, maybe you could include or paste the links and the websites that you just mentioned both in our chat here, so folks on the call can see. And maybe if you're willing to share the presentation, the slides as a PDF in our recording channel, maybe you can also add those links to the final slide, so folks who will be listening to the recording later, they can also have a look.
Okay, yes, sure. Everything and all the things that I share with you today, I'm gonna share with in those channels, so you can access there.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Do we have any questions?
Happy to answer them.
Hello, I'm Santiago Rincón. I want us to ask when this get used by users, is there any way to recover the conversations to use them as test material, or they are transparent for us?
Can you? What do you mean?
Yeah, when these get to production, okay, if I have to a Dialogflow agent working, the conversations it has with the clients get to be saved in some way, or maybe in Google Cloud Storage or something like that, to be able to perform further testing and to check how it's working.
Yeah, so let me share my screen again. I'll show you. So on Dialogflow CX, okay, if you go to the agent settings, okay, here you can enable the interaction login, okay.
Okay.
So for the interaction login, everything that happened with your agent is gonna be stored under the login. Okay, so you will see here like all the interactions, then you can post-process there. Okay, that
Yeah.
is where
So
you are gonna see the like if you specify an entity type as a redacted, there is where you are gonna see the asterisk. Okay.
Okay.
And also very important, you can, as other technologies, you can create entity types on the fly. Like for instance, I don't know, for a trivial game, like that you have to answer 4 questions every single time. You can fill those 4 questions on every turn. Okay, and that is also important to know. Those here in Dialogflow CX, they call it session entities. In Alexa, they call it dynamic entities, for example.
Okay.
But the concept is the same.
to manage it programmatically, the only way is your personal GUI, or am I wrong?
Yeah, for manage this programmatically, there are two ways. First is well, the webhook. That is something that you will need to manage. There is not another way, so you have to manage that. You can use the same repo, but basically that is going to be a Google Cloud function with its development lifecycle. You can, once you release a new version of your Google Cloud function, you can set that using, for instance, my CLI as the current webhook, okay, for your agent. Or for instance, let's say that you have your Google Cloud function deployed in your staging environment. You can use my CLI and set that API, that URL or agent environment here under the Dialogflow CX. That is a good practice, and that is one of the reasons that I developed the CLI. And also, they have introduced the Dialogflow CX, the GitHub integration. Okay, so basically, Git? When you enable this, everything is gonna be, like stored on your GitHub, and it's gonna be version tracked there. And what is the things that you are gonna see on your GitHub? Let me show you an example of your agent. Basically, it's all your agent information in JSON format. So here you can export JSON package, okay, because the raw bytes is just a blob file and you cannot check anything, and download. Okay, so when you export this here and unzip this, you can open with Visual Studio Code, and you can see like the agent information, like everything that has your agent is gonna be here in JSON format. For instance, the flows, those flows are gonna be defined here, okay? The intents are gonna be defined here, and also per language. Okay, so those are, if you enable the Git integration, you are gonna see this under your GitHub repo. And also, if you don't want to enable that, you can work with this, like in, let's say, in the dev mode, and you can upload it using my CLI as well.
Okay. Thank you.
No problem. The JSON format is quite new. It's quite new. 2 months ago, the CX agent, I mean the Dialogflow CX, I think it started in 2018, but they are, developing new features every day. So if you wanna start, I would say let's start on Dialogflow CX, and let's not start on Dialogflow ES. Okay, it is more modern, and the platform in terms of designing and developing your conversation is way easier than the ES. On ES, you have to manage like these transitions that are super easy to do. On ES, that was probably something that you have to do on your webhook, and to manage that dialogue, your dialogue, like your state machine on your webhook, instead of this that is built in, on CX.
Okay.
Any other question?
Feel free to unmute yourselves or type in our chat if there is anything else. And if not, like I said, we're gonna upload the recording and slides as well. Feel free to. Oh, is there a question?
I have a question. Well, I mean, it's a comment and a question. So first of all, I tried your CX CLI tool. Thank you for creating it, and it just kind of gets better and better. And the earlier, you wrote to me about the concept of session state, and is your tool going to address that to make it for Dialogflow CX to help with that session state that that you advised on?
Do you mean the session entities?
So yeah, where it kind of manages that component. I know you said that the webhook, the back end needs to take care of that information, but is there a way, or are there plans for the CX CLI tool to help with that? Or
to manage the sessions?
I'm not sure. So I'm not sure. So I'm asking you if that is. Is it a possibility? That's not even.
So that is in terms of the API, Dialogflow CX expose a session client and a session API. So that is something that I didn't consider, but I probably will take a look and add it, like actions to interact with the session of specific user. For instance, you want to change, on the fly a parameter or something like that. I think that is probably something that we can do with the CLI. So yeah, I will read about it, and probably I will add it for sure.
Well, thank you very much for working on it. That's an awesome tool, and I wish I could join you, but my knowledge is not there. And hopefully other people that are listening can join you. And you're doing an awesome job. Gracias.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Thanks so much. Yeah, and I was going to say, if there are any more questions, or if there will be questions from folks listening to the recording, like Xavi mentioned, there is a channel dedicated to conversational AI, and I'm sure you'll be able to answer some thoughts there as well.
See you there. I am always online there, so whenever you want to drop a message, or you can DM as well here, Twitter, whatever. Feel free.
Perfect. Great. Thank you so much for your time, and thank you, Xavi, for presenting and sharing your knowledge today. That was super interesting. Appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Have a good day, guys.
Thanks, everyone. Take care.
Bye bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye bye.